All right, guys, we are excited for this week. We have somebody who we've had on a couple times. I was going to say once, but he's actually been on a couple times, which is so awesome. And if you caught our one year panel that we did, we had Greg on, which is who we have on today, and he mentioned something about a thesis that he did, nature versus nurture, and I was just like, it's been on my mind ever since he said that, and I was like, we've got to have him come back and just kind of talk about it.
Mhm.
So I'm super excited for him, and then he's also got kind of an update with life too, because we haven't really had him on for that. So that's something exciting that he's going to share later on. So you guys know Greg, he's an adoptee, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn the time over to him and just, yeah, go ahead and take it away.
Mhm.
Cool. Thank you for having me on. It's so fun to see you guys like every 6 months or so. Um, and yeah, last time I talked a little bit, I just mentioned that I did my thesis. I went to Weber State University in Ogden, Utah, and uh, when I chose to go back to school to finish out my art degree, um, it was very heavy on concept, and so I had to dig deeper than just creating pretty art. I had to like give meaning and seek out something that was personal to me. And so I decided to do that on nurture versus nature. And uh, that was when I think I discussed in the first time I was on how it was my final semester. And then I met my birth mother while I'd already chosen nature versus nurture as my subject. And it was just a crazy coming together of all these different mixed things to create like this really fun thesis. So what I thought I would do is start out with reading my, so when we had to create our thesis, the paintings and or the art did the heavy like amount of lifting and like the talking for the majority of your thesis. And so we were asked to come up with a thesis statement that basically summed up what our work was about and kind of explain that. So it's not lengthy. I will just read it briefly to you. And then I have some other things we can discuss that
Cool.
had to do with that, what I found some more information on that. So
Awesome.
without further ado, so for my thesis, I said I'm interested in the connections made, lost, and reconnected throughout my lifetime. Through the selfless act of adoption, I was planted in the arms of two wonderful people that cultivated and nurtured me in an environment where I could dig my roots in deep and grow creatively. Thanks to modern science, I've recently learned about my biological ancestry and discovered a genetic artist inheritance flowing through me, which has given me a deeper meaning to my place in the creative world. Because of these discoveries, I've been fascinated with learning about the lives of those that directly influenced who I am today. My recent work explores the not so distant past that has shaped my life, primarily comprised of figurative and plant life. Through plant symbolism and referencing discovered photographs of my adopted and biological grandparents, my work seems to briefly collapse the gap of distance between our lifetimes through the medium and canvas. Um, and then to follow that up, I found this a really amazing quote by an author, Carol Lynn Pearson. Um, it says, and I added this in, to an adopted, I did not plant you, true. But when the season is done, when the alternate prayers for sun and for rain are counted, when the pain of weeding and the pride of watching are through, then I will hold you high, a shining sheaf above the thousand seeds grown wild. Not my planting, but by heaven my harvest, my own child. Um,
Gosh,
right.
that is
I
beautiful.
like
No, that's
that.
beautiful. Like yours and that combined with that quote.
Hmm.
Holy cow.
It's like a perfect mixture. Like just
No,
just chef's kiss. That was awesome.
Good, right? I get goosebumps every time I read that, and
for real
I
though.
didn't cry this time, but yeah, it's so powerful to hear those words just comprised in
Hmm.
that short poem. So when I was discovering like uh so it all happened during the pandemic, which was great. So as I was discovering all this new information from my birth parents' side and trying to like feel this out through the canvas using paint as like my medium of um, using my expression of what I was feeling and going through. Um, it was really fun to kind of So I discovered things like my birth mother is obsessed with plants, and going to her place just last week, like I love it there because it's just filled with plants everywhere. She takes like clippings and she can grow them um, so easily. Just even like she's got um, what's it called? Propagating. When she's got all these jars everywhere, but these plants are like growing out all this lush stuff. So it was really cool to combine plants with the figure, and it was through some photographs that I'd never seen before and some that I had. Um, and my favorite one is probably my birth mother holding me, which was a crazy feeling. There were so many emotions seeing this picture of myself I'd never seen before as like a day old infant, and being held by my young birth mother, which was it was so cool. So I wanted to capture that in a way that um, that had that feeling of being held, but also being like adored and just looked at. I do have that for our viewers of this, and I'll describe it.
I
So
know.
this photograph, it has my birth mother, um, just kind of her profile, and she's holding me. Um, oh my gosh, my blur is gonna
I was
mess
about
this
to
We
up.
say
can
all I
see
saw was
cute baby
baby,
you.
cute baby, just like baby and
All right.
everything. It was a really neat effect,
Baby
actually.
you.
So if I can get this to show.
You might have to turn the brightness down on
Brightness
your
down.
yeah, brightness down on your phone.
On my phone.
Yeah, turn brightness down on your phone.
You guys know this. Okay, so sorry, it's gonna be terrible. The paintings are like uh 3 feet by 5 feet, so they're quite large, and I don't have them. Um, try that. There you go. That's better. Much.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
So
that's cute. That's really nice.
yeah, it's like it's a huge painting. So um, yeah, I granted these. So to give a little bit of preface, I during the pandemic, right? So um, we had time to work on these, but it wasn't. There was so much going on during all that time that we had to stop classes, and we lost our studio space. So I basically had to try and paint this from home while keeping up with the online work for my other courses. Uh, and so I'm a perfectionist. Like I have to battle that constantly. And so I had to kind of let go of this and just do it. I was doing more of an underpainting and these dark tones, and then kind of filling in the foliage and like the plant life behind and color. And then I was gonna paint over. And anyways, uh so they're unfinished, but I kind of leaned into that towards the end of that semester and before we did our big show, because this is literally my story unfinished. It's kind of like discovering new parts as well as blending with familiar. Um, and so yeah, I created these. The first one was my birth mother holding me as a newborn. Um, and then I did another large one of my adopted parents holding me as a
So
toddler.
cute. Yeah. I'm totally
Oh, I
cheating and
love
looking at your
that.
page.
Quit cheating.
Yeah.
Well, I
You're
remember
cheating.
when he
I put
posted
my
this
phone down. Quit
because
cheating.
he
That
posted
is
this during
really
COVID, and I remember seeing it and I was like, oh my gosh. And it's amazing to me. Like, you are so incredibly talented. There is no way I'd be able to paint something like that. Like, are you kidding me? It would look like a stick figure. It would look horrible. Like, it's just, yeah.
stop cheating.
Stop cheating. No,
You're
but like
cheating. You
the
just quit
viewers are
quit.
staying with it.
Yeah, well, the viewers
It's
just saw
because
my
I couldn't
face
see his
and go,
picture very
just
well,
saw
so I
me go,
wanted
are
to
you
look at
kidding?
it better. I wanted to see it better. I'll probably link it so people can go look at it because it was kind of hard to see on his
Yes,
screen
Cool.
because it was
Yeah, I'll
well,
beautiful.
see
I
my
did not
my
cheat, Greg, and I watched it through the screen and I thought it was stunning.
I am so proud of you. Thank you so much for sticking to what
You're
I'm just kidding.
You know
you're
what?
welcome. I'm
Stop
being
being a
genuine.
teacher's pet there, Delancey.
I can't help it. I'm like a favorite student because I follow the rules.
Oh, I could never. I'm sorry. So, um, this other one that's one of my favorites as well. So I did my birth mother, and then I did my adopted parents, and then I dove into my grandparents because they're also a big part of the story. I was
Mhm.
gonna do my dad's parents, my adopted father's parents, uh, but yeah, literally ran out of time and space and everything happened. But I did was able to get my adopted mother's parents, which interestingly enough, I was never able to meet my adopted mother's mother because she passed away when my mom was 18.
Oh, wow.
And so then I met my grandfather, but he was like in his 90s when I was in elementary
Mhm.
school. He was like
Wow.
96. Yeah, he grew up, it's kind of crazy. He grew up during the Great Depression and rode around in Texas on a horse with that's it. He had all his belongings right there. He just went from ranch to ranch
Wow.
getting work. So there's these like rich stories that I kind of never really got to discover until after their passing.
Mhm.
Um, and I was lucky enough to have quite a few years with my adopted father's grandparents. So this was more of like a diving deeper into the areas that I didn't know as
Mhm.
well. Uh, as I was uh, going through school and discovering more about my biological side, as I was speaking to my grandmother, she shared a lot of photos with me, which was really cool. And then discovering that my great grandfather was also an artist and taught at one of the universities that I went to was pretty mind blowing to find that out. And there's an image that she gave me that was of her as a young girl holding her own father. So my great grandfather, his
Mhm.
one of his paintings that he did. So it's
Cool.
pretty inception here. I went through making uh, a painting of my grandmother holding my great grandfather's painting. So,
Wow.
and then I added in leaves on the back of that.
It's beautiful.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
that was really fun to discover like his painting and trying to recreate it in just black and white
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
capturing also her. And it's just that was a cool one. That was a lot of fun to do.
There's just a different level of talent to these. Like
That's what
it's,
I
you
was
know,
thinking. Holy cow.
yeah, like there are talented people out there that you can be like, oh my God, you're so talented. Like that's so beautiful. But like this is a different level.
Next
Like
level.
it's just
No, it's
it's
so
like
true.
it's next level because like when I'm looking at it, I'm going, I just see so many, it just the way it looks to me is like there's so many different textures and different style. Like it's just all
Yeah.
it that's a whole different level to me. That's it's just stunning.
And it's amazing.
Well, thank God for 8 years of school and $60,000 worth of debt. But I will get to.
Money well spent.
That's right. This was my adopted mother's father.
Oh my
Up a
gosh.
little bit
I
lower.
love
Is that a
that.
cactus?
Look at his hat.
Yeah,
Oh
so
my
he because
gosh.
he grew up in
Love
Texas and like when
it.
I went to visit him, um, he was just a Texas cowboy. That's what
I
he
love
was.
that.
So I
That's
kind of
That's
awesome.
captured
so
that.
awesome.
And these pictures actually are from my adopted mother's, well, I guess my adopted grandparents, from their um honeymoon actually to Catalina
Oh,
in California.
wow. That's cool.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Thought I had a more finished one ready for you, but oh well, we'll roll with this. So this is my birth grandmother,
Oh
or
my
excuse me, my
gosh.
adopted grandmother. So also
That's pretty
Wow.
cool
my
too.
That
mom's mom.
is.
Um, I wish I had been more prepared with I somewhere is the reasoning behind each and every one of these plants. There was like for my uh, adopted grandfather, the cactus represented
Hmm.
longevity and enduring hard and dry times, but still being able to thrive and maintain. Uh, I think rosemary was something like it has to do with I'm sorry. I would have to look it up. But anyways, so there was reasoning behind all these. You'd think after like only 3 years that I would have these remembered stuff. But yeah, and then my final one was my great grandfather, whom I hadn't met, obviously, but who passed. And so because of that, and I've only been given partial information when it comes to him. And so it's a very interesting area and kind of the way that I painted him too. Like I was going to refine the face, but I didn't. Because as you learn more, sorry, this one's kind of hard to see, but his face is like actually blurred in the painting, so it's not your computer.
Okay.
I was about to say, I thought it was my vision. I didn't even think it was
Yeah,
like my electronics. I was like,
no,
I'm going blind.
because I don't know if you can
So
see the hands. The hands are pretty refined
okay.
right
Yeah.
there. I won't
Yeah.
focus in as much, but um, so it's
So
interesting.
is
I
he
gotta
your
be careful with what
sorry?
I share. You know, you're good.
Is he your birth
Yes, he's
grandfather?
my
Okay. Okay.
biological great
Okay.
grandfather.
That's what I wanted to clarify on that. Okay, cool.
So as I've learned more and more about uh my biological side of my family, it's so interesting because there's so many factors um that factor in with uh the history and what they share and what they're like, we don't want to really share that.
Right.
Um, the only thing I can say, just to respect their privacy, is that
Mhm.
there were some things that they're not too stoked about having on their, on their history with him. And so that's kind of another reason that I kind of left him blurred, because like I don't know him, but there's an area that I'm like, well,
Right.
maybe I want to, as I continue to develop an image of him and see
Mhm.
him, then I'll have a better idea. But going off of
Yeah.
what I've been told and stuff, it's, yeah,
Right.
it felt
Yeah.
right to leave it that way versus, I don't know. So,
No.
That's
do you have any
interesting
questions so
too.
far? Or, yeah.
Yeah, I actually do. How
I,
many hours would you say took, like with all these painting? How many hours would you say that you put in? Because that, like, just the work of it. Give me a ballpark. I know you probably don't know exact,
a
but
million, a
a
million,
million.
That's a
a million.
semester's worth. Let's say
So
close to like
12.
maybe 80 hours, close to 80 to 100 hours.
Oh, I was thinking more.
I was
I
thinking
was,
more too. I mean, like that's a
I was
lot, but I
thinking
was thinking
more.
more. Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
had
it's
I been like refining them all the way to their final process, it probably would have been double that, I'm sure.
Okay. Okay. And
well,
so
it's
go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, like, I just in my brain, the way my brain works, it's like it's gonna be so much more than he says a semester, and my brain immediately goes 12 hours. That's how much you take in a semester. You just take 12 hours, like, because that's how, like, you take
No,
12
it's true.
hours in
It's true.
classes, and like that's how my brain works. And he goes
12 hours.
80. What? None of this makes sense. It's more than 80, Greg. I
Right.
think it's more than 80.
Most
Yeah.
likely, I'd
It
probably
probably,
refine
Yeah,
that down.
yeah.
it's gonna be like
Uh,
500.
500. 1 million.
yeah, when
500.
you're in the
1
fine art
million.
program, when you're in the fine art program, it is like be prepared for 40 hours a week's worth of
Wow.
work, because you as
Wow.
much time as you're spending in the classroom, you're spending that much time painting outside. It's
Wow.
not just as simple as like
That's
solving a
fair.
math equation. It's like, when do I
Right.
know this is done? When do you figure
Wow.
out
I
when to
love how he
stop and when to
says,
like keep going?
I love how he says as simple as solving a math equation, because for some of us, it's not
No,
that simple to solve a
it's
math
not that
equation.
simple
I
either. No,
had
I'm
I
with
had
you.
to use a calculator today to do basic math because my brain was so fried. So
I feel you. That's me as well. At least you get
like,
a final answer like that
Right.
yeah, that's
comes out
true.
at the
That is
end versus
Unlike
like,
the art. Yeah.
is this
well,
done? Is
well,
this
So
that's
funny.
I feel like with art, you get to decide when it's done.
Right.
yeah.
It doesn't tell you when it's done. You tell it when it's done. It's like, or maybe it does tell you. I don't know.
That's
I'm
actually
gonna
the push and
stop.
pull then, that you reach in, or that you hit that
I
point
got
of
what you
like,
meant, Lindsay.
I could pick at this for like another full month, or I can like
Hmm.
kind of sit back and say, I am satisfied. I do like this.
Yeah.
Because like our nature
Right.
is to keep developing and make it perfect. But it's that
Hmm.
ability and control to be like, okay, but where is perfect? Where is the
Right.
line of what's
Right.
beauty and what's not? What's
Yeah.
this and that? So we won't even dive into that, but
So,
That's a lot. I was about to
that's
say that's a lot.
it was a lot.
That-
where are the paintings?
The paintings
good
are at
question.
my adopted parents right now, just because they're so big, and that's the only place
Okay.
I can store them for the moment
How
being.
how big are they again, did you say? Like,
Three of them are 3 feet wide by 5 feet tall.
okay,
And then
dang.
I did a couple other plant paintings that were a little bit smaller. We're talking like maybe 18 inches by 20 or something like that. And
Okay,
then
cool.
a few others that were like, I don't know, ballpark is like 2 feet by 3 feet
Wow,
ish.
that's cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Do they have them hung up or are they just stored
I
there?
was about to ask that. Are they on display? Like, because I'm just envisioning one room and they're just
Right.
like on
Everywhere.
each, like all the walls. Yes. And they tell a
I wish
story.
they're massive. No, it's interesting. Um, to dive in further, it's like it's been an interesting dynamic between my adopted parents and my biological, I guess my birth mother.
Mhm.
Um, there's not a riff, but I can tell you can kind of read the body language, read the between the
Mhm.
lines, and like I'm for the sake of like I want to keep talking about this and keep going. I don't want to really share when we do
No,
this
that's
podcast because
Mhm.
then it
Yeah,
keeps
no.
totally.
this like ability to
Yeah,
talk
no.
a little more freely, but still respectful of them.
No, of
And
Right.
course.
Yeah,
so,
no,
Of
absolutely.
course.
yeah,
Yeah, we respect that
it's
Yeah.
mostly just like kind of my view, my observations.
perspective.
So I think
Mhm.
from that, um, on both sides, I think that they're both trying to also internalize this and kind of figure out what they're feeling as
Right.
well.
It's
And
hard.
so,
Yeah.
and also like part of it too is me because not being able to finish out to what my original vision was during
Mhm.
that final semester with that like cumulative, I'm gonna graduate and the COVID hits and
Right, right.
the pandemic. Yeah. So yeah. So anyways, they're stored there for now and I'll probably break them out and refine. Maybe I don't know, one day we'll see. But
I'm,
I
I'm
just
just picturing Greg doing this like massive, like maybe not tomorrow, maybe next week, but like this massive like art show showing, viewing, like a whole gallery, like having his different pieces as you like grow your story. So it won't be just that's gonna come out wrong. Let me figure out how. It's going to feature your story and your art and tie it all together. So it would
Right.
almost be like an adoption awareness type artistic type thing. Does that make sense?
Oh,
Like
yeah,
in
no, it
my head,
yeah.
like
totally does.
I'm just picturing something like that because like as you grow and develop your story, because I know exactly what you mean with what you're talking about with just your observations and stuff and like picking up, when we know both sides, we notice things. And
Yes.
that's not good or bad. That's just like
Yeah.
it's just fact of just knowing two different sets of people,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and
Mm-hmm.
they probably don't even realize that they're doing it. It's just people are interesting. So I'm just like picturing in the future as you continue to grow and develop your story and your journey and everything. I'm just like, I just see you helping people through your art and sharing your story at the same time. Kind of like I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work for you, but I just know that's going to happen for you somehow, some way. And you're going to have to break out those pictures and then post them on Instagram, but tag me first to look at them so that Melena doesn't beat me to it. I'm just
Whatever.
saying,
My ass will
you
be at that
cheated.
gallery. So there.
What makes
Unless
you
you
think that
fly
I
out.
won't fly up? What makes you think I wouldn't fly up to go see it? Because I 100% would.
Well, then you
Oh
can fly up.
wow.
But we would be there to support you, is what we're saying.
100%. 100%. We would be there to support you.
I've definitely been diving in a little bit further to that. I think I'm at the stage where like it's been like digesting for a few years, and so I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of as I'm going further and deeper into the rabbit hole. It's yeah, it's kind of this. I've talked to my girlfriend a lot, who's also an artist. She and I have discussed how yeah, there's something in there in me that like needs to be expressed with what I'm discovering,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm feeling, and what I've been
Mm-hmm.
through,
Yeah.
and trying to help express in a visual context of some of those emotions and
Mm-hmm.
feelings and
Right.
things. So yeah, I would love to do that in the next few years. Hopefully I can continue to
That'd be sweet.
materialize that into life.
That'd be
Um,
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
so when I was going through this, and then also just even for today, uh, I visited some things in my sketchbook as well as like some sites and things that are good reference for the nature versus nurture. So I'm going to share some of those with you and we can
Yeah.
discuss them and kind of go over some of your feelings and things you've felt too as you've developed your own adoption stories. Um, but the bottom line of the nature versus nurture is when you get down to it is what makes you you and who you are.
Mm-hmm.
That is the question of it, right? Is it determined by genetic code or is it inherited by blood relatives? The physical traits, attributes, and personality types, or is it determined by the environment you grow up in, the people you surround yourself with, and the experiences you go through? It's one of those questions where there's so much on both sides that we can all see being
Mm-hmm.
adopted people that adoptees that it's
Sorry, I don't
Adopted
mean to laugh.
No, I caught
It's
myself after I
adopted
heard it like
people.
adopted
Adopted
people.
people, and it made me think of shiny people. When
Yeah,
he said adopted people, my brain
right.
immediately went to that
Adopted
song.
people. I love it.
Uh, but yeah, it's one of those questions where we all are questioning that, especially as we're learning
Mhm.
more through life of seeing ourselves through our own eyes, of recognizing traits and things we do, ways we act, and
Right.
asking like, wait,
Yeah.
does this come from like my environment, from my adopted parents that I learned this, or is this something that's innate? Like, is it inside me that I've just naturally am experiencing because it's been passed down?
Mhm.
Right.
And the the conclusion to most of these that I found, the articles and different information to come down to, is the conclusion seems to end in a draw, because both options given are not mutually exclusive. You literally cannot separate one from the other,
Right.
especially in the case of adoption.
Yeah.
And
Such facts.
That's so true.
yeah, I mean, I want to hear your perspectives of like what you've experienced in your own stories, because both of you have both met your birth parents, or at least your birth mother. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So what have you personally like? Maybe what did you question prior, and then what was it that, like, some things that you discovered that are like, wait, she does that too, or that's also me, that kind of stuff.
Melanie, you can go first.
I'm like trying to think on it. Um, for me, and like, see, this is where I'm excited to hear it, because me and Delancey like are like for things that we kind of like, I don't know how to say it, yearned for, I guess, per se. Some she didn't care, some I didn't care. So like I'm
Mhm.
excited to hear her answer too. But like for me, thinking about it, I was never disgruntled that I didn't look like my family, like ever. Like, but
Mhm.
there was always that in me, like, will I ever have somebody look like me? Will I ever like, and I never, because I was, until I had kids, I was like, nobody's ever going to look like me. I didn't put two and two together that maybe if I had kids one day, somebody would look like me. But like, that was always a, and there's things that my family did that you could see from my parents that came down to my siblings. And I'm like, I don't quite do that. I don't know if I'll ever get that. Like, and to this day
Mhm.
still, I mean, there's definitely things, I don't know, growing up in environment and stuff I can see that I got from my parents. But then it's also just so mind blowing once I did meet my birth family. It's exactly what you said. Facial expressions, mannerisms, learning about the way that they all work so damn hard for everything that they want.
Mhm.
Like, and I know that's like a lot of how, I'm not saying my parents aren't that way either, but like I know them living in Colombia, it's not as easy. I shouldn't say that, because it's not as easy anywhere that you are to work really hard for what, but you can see that they try so hard to work for what they want. And I've always noticed that. And one thing that I've noticed about them is they are some of the most loving, open people. Granted, it's been from a distance because I haven't met them in person, that I've ever met. And I really feel like that has come a lot, because I feel like when I love people, I love hard, unless you screw me over. Then I don't love as hard. And I've like noticed that with them, like they just have really big open hearts. And I'm just like, wow. And not that my parents don't, but it's like it's those little things that I'm like, wow,
Mhm.
like holy cow. So yeah, that's kind of mine on there. Okay, Delancey, you're
Okay.
up.
I don't know that I want to. Okay. Um. I, um. I. How can I'm trying to think how I can start this.
More noises, more
I know
noise.
more noises. Like it's. I just feel like when I get super uncomfortable, I either go to like comedy or I go to making like sound effects for comedy. Like it's like it's one of those things like don't look at me, but you're obviously gonna look at me because I'm making noises. So
Have you seen that
um
lady, that newscaster? It's like over a decade old, but it's that newscaster who's like squashing grapes at this like some wine festival, and she like slips and falls out. She's
oh
like,
god. That would yes, that would 100% be yes. That would be me. Um I think for me, let's just be honest, I didn't care to find
yeah,
out. I didn't care. I just at the end of the day, I it was never a question for me. Like my mom and I actually had this conversation My mom and I had this conversation while we were watching baseball yesterday. Yesterday, yeah, today's Tuesday. Yesterday was Monday. Yes, yesterday. My days are mixed up. We were watching baseball yesterday. And we were having a conversation, and my mom even came out and said like she knew that I never cared. Like it wasn't a thing for me. It just was like I was proud to be adopted, but it wasn't like where does this come from? Like what part of this is like I'm not because I'm so much like my family. I am so much like my family. Like it's almost insane how much I'm like my family. Like people will even comment that I'm just like my mom. I'm a spitfire like my mom is, which is true. And I have like the like work ethic of my dad. 'Cause my dad was a hard worker, and I take those compliments for both of them. But then like they'll say when they find out that my sister lives here, she's my sister. They're like, "Oh, obviously y'all act so much alike. This makes sense now." And I'm like, I mean, we do. That makes sense. So but when I met the biological family, the biological mother, it was one of those things of, okay, some of this stuff was already there. It just happened to, and that just furthers the explanation for me that God has a hand in it because some of the things that were already in me, instilled in me, like genetically or whatever, however you want to say that, from nature that comes from her. And getting to know the younger siblings, especially the ones closest in age to me, the tenacity, the feistiness, the hard work, the not go like, and this is gonna make it sound like we're very violent people, but that's not what I mean. Like we don't go down without a fight. Like we don't give up. Like we have grit in us. And that just happened to blend really well with my family because it's like my family took the raw grit, tenacity stuff that's already in me, and it's almost like they polished it up a little bit and they made it like empathy, kindness. You look out for others, you take care of others. Like in the process of taking care of others, you're also taking care of yourself.
Right.
Like and like all of that blended together. That also being said, that helped me to, and I'm not like you said, Greg, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but after several years of getting to know everything and observing and realizing that yeah, some things are just better left alone. Like there's no other way to describe that. I'm thankful for what I know and for understanding that nature and nurture thing because it's like I said, it's almost like God took the raw nature part and put it with the nurture to help make it a little shinier and, smooth out those rough edges a little bit. But it was insane to me because even my mom said, the she was like, "Your fighting spirit. I thought you got that from me, but you really got that from your biological mother." And I was like, I think I got it from both of y'all, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was like, both of y'all are pretty strong women. I don't think I had a chance of being like, the little sweet girl next door that bakes chocolate chip cookies and, ask if I can babysit your toddler. Like, that's just, I mean, I would still babysit your toddler. I'm not going to say I wouldn't do that, but like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's
No.
just,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was very interesting to me over the last 6 years getting to see exactly how much adoption in my life helped blow up the nature versus nurture option.
Yeah.
Like it's just,
For
it was
sure.
very eye opening.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. You're welcome.
It's crazy how the two are so intertwined. I love that because yeah, it's you can't really get away from the other without the other.
Mm-mm. You
That's
have
what
to
kind
have
of like
both.
I'm, yeah. There's no way that it works without one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
that poem that I read earlier, I thought that summed up that entirety altogether, where essentially the seed is being planted elsewhere, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still her that was the one that provided that,
Right.
despite how it and where it grew. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I love that analogy of that, and that was a big part of my thesis was that plant being, she especially her being into plants so much that repotting that like taking out and planting elsewhere so it can grow and thrive in an environment that it just wasn't going to initially in the original one. Um, and this article that I can send to you, it's It's on actually the adopting.org site. They did one in July 2021, an article about nature versus nurture, the adoption conversation. And I I love the questions that they posed. They said that both prospective parents and adoptees have quite a lot of questions when it comes to nature versus nurture. And they separated them from what the parents might ask and what the children might ask, the adoptees. From the parents' perspective, things like, what will my child be like? How will they fit into my family? Will they get along with their siblings? How much of me will I see in them? And how much of their birth parents will I see in them?
Right.
From the children's perspective, where did this trait come from? Do I, like we just talked about, like, do I act and think like this because of my birth parents, or how much of me is from my adopted parents?
Right.
And to kind of segue into my experience last week, which was amazing. I saw a lot of both of those things, and my girlfriend was with me, and it was cool to hear her from an like an outside observation
Yeah.
of the little nuances. So she explained that my my birth mother and I, so it was my half sisters, my oldest half sisters. It was her wedding, and so it was the first time that every single one of my birth mother's children, like all three of my half sisters and myself, were all together in the same place. It's either been like FaceTiming one and the other from a distance. So all of us were there in one place, and we had just a great time. And while we were there, I guess my birth mother and I, we turn our heads like Lion King together and just kind of like stare off. So I'll give you a little sample like this,
I was about to say, I need a visual.
where it's just that turn, it's that head turn, the neck like outstretched and like gazing off over the
That's so
Pride
funny.
Rock line,
I was gonna say, are you looking to see everything that the
Sahara.
light touches? Because that's what it looks like.
That's what it is. And apparently we both do that when we're standing next to each other and just turn. And
Oh my goodness,
it's
that's
the
crazy.
Jumanji. What is it called? I can't think of it. If you've seen the new one with The Rock, where it's like smolder, one
Oh
of his
yeah.
powers is smoldering. He just stops. He's like, so that's pretty much, I guess what we do.
Oh, that's
Um,
crazy.
but yeah, there's so many nuances and stuff that we do. That's like just physical attributes of like even standing the same way, like putting one balance on one hip and just kind of being next to each other in that sense. Um, but it was really cool. It was such an awesome experience. To all of us be there and just it was a small wedding, and so the fun
Yeah.
part was like afterwards when we are doing dancing, every single one of us got into like on the dance floor. We're dancing together and having the time of our life. It was so cool. I have a picture. I'm
I was
sorry,
just
I'm
gonna
on the
say, did your girlfriend get any pictures or
podcast.
videos? Because I want to see.
Well, I
So
have a question. Do y'all
yes,
dance
go
the
ahead.
same?
You know
That's a
what's
good
funny?
question. That's a really good question.
Y'all
Do
do, don't you?
we
Y'all
dance
do,
the same?
don't you?
Oh, is she right there?
Oh,
Yeah.
girlfriend, come here. Yes,
Did we
tell us. Do
dance
they
the
dance
same?
the same?
They're good dancers,
So she
Okay.
said, they're all good dancers, but you're a really good dancer. But so the thing is, like, damn it, Janelle. So
Now I have even more questions.
here's the story. Okay, so
Yes, story.
for those that know me, know that I was just a goof in high school and junior high, and I would get on the dance floor, and so we're out dancing, and then like I don't remember what song it was, but song comes on, and it's probably a good 80s one or something. It's not Michael Jackson. I wish it was, but I might be able to moonwalk, and so I kind of moonwalked across the floor and kind of like slid back and forth all these dance moves, and they kind of lost their shit. So it was pretty fun to like let that come out and
Experience that
Way
with
to
him. Yeah.
bury the lead. You can't bury the lead like that. You can, so they can't moonwalk.
they can't, but they were interested in learning, so we're gonna start up these virtual lessons, I guess.
Virtual
So,
lessons. I love
That's
that.
amazing on so many levels.
it was pretty fun, but it was a good time. It was amazing. So this is a picture of all of the siblings and their significant others, minus my youngest, who she's still exploring life. She's young. She's 23 now. 22, 23 now. Anyways. Oh my gosh, I keep putting on the blur because our place is not messing right
Oh, we don't care.
now. Okay. So that's
Go. Hey,
every single
lift.
one
There
of
you
them.
go. Lift.
Yep, right there. So I'm gonna put my elbows down.
So who?
Okay. So
Who's?
starting
Yeah.
from so what direction are you seeing it? The far left
Is the
is
guy?
my girlfriend. Oh, is the guy to you?
Right? The
Yeah, I
far
was about to
left
say,
on our
Am I
side.
flipped?
okay.
What side is the guy on the end?
The left.
Our
Okay,
left,
so he's
you're
on your
right.
left.
Yeah.
Okay, so on your left, that is my sister who's next to him. That's her husband.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
next, yeah, so that's one of my half sisters. She's the middle. And then the oldest is the one that got married there in the middle with her husband.
Okay.
Just to the left of her, that's Maddie. So it's Maddie and then Audrey who got married. And oh my gosh, why did I just blank? Because I'm on a podcast. Jess. Oh my gosh, she's gonna kill me. Good thing I'm not
She'd
gonna
be like,
share this with her.
what the hell?
I know.
know,
She's
they're
like,
like
you forgot me. I'm gonna forget you at Christmas.
No. We just
Cold
went
for
to Pride
you.
with them. We just went to Pride this weekend with them. Okay. Anyways. So yeah, so Jess is the middle, Audrey's the oldest, and then Maddie the youngest there. And it's fun to see if you look like even just this blurry-ish picture. Look at our little cheeks and like squinty eyes. Like that's
No,
I was gonna
there's a
say you
lot of
have the same
similarities.
eyes.
Yeah.
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 it's just crazy. Like it
It
was so
almost
cool.
it almost looks like the same nose too, but I don't know if that's the angle.
Little bit,
Like
little bit.
it's
Some of
like the
us have the
same
same.
here. Like
Mhm.
this right here is the same on
Yeah,
y'all.
no. And then this is my birth mother and I.
Oh. Wow, that's crazy. Oh my
That's
goodness.
Right?
great. You look just like her.
Oh, by the way, if you're
Yeah,
listening and you want
she's
to see any of
gorgeous.
this, you got to go to YouTube. Sorry, that's the only way you're going to see it.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice at this point if you're not going to YouTube to watch
It's true.
this.
It's true.
Up those views. Yeah.
Up
It You're welcome for that.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite. Up those views.
Right. It was funny. Some of the funnier experiences and little nuances that I noticed were so of course, I mean, no wedding goes according to plan. Like every single piece does
Mm-mm.
not fall in place, at
Right.
least as far as I've seen.
Right.
And so we had
Never.
our share of wedding mishaps and just the natural things that happen. Um, from a car getting stranded with us out and who it was like 30 minutes away because the
What?
starter died with an hour
That wasn't
before
what
the
I thought he
rehearsal
was going to
dinner
say.
to us all piling into a van and driving and trying to make it and hearing my birth mother's stress that was just the same as mine with like you mother effer, why'd you pull in front of me, and then just like, but I'm good, we're over it, okay, now moving on. It's like such a quick flash of anger, then like, well, no, we're good, let's go. um yeah, it was just so many things that were just so funny, but it was just like seeing like, well, that's how I get mad. I'm like road rage for like 2 seconds. I'm like, it's fine. Okay, let's keep going. Let's go. Yeah, it was a good time. We had a blast. It was lots of memories to cherish for a long time.
For sure. No, for sure.
So yeah. And I don't know how much time do we have. Do we just have like the 10 minutes?
As much
Oh,
time as you
you're
want.
good.
You're
I wanted to share
completely
a story
fine.
with you. That's like,
Yeah,
Yes, story
please.
time.
Please do.
Go for it.
so interesting. And it's not my own. So it's something that like I found that this is from 2007. So on NPR, there's a show or a little period that they call All Things Considered. And they do like these different stories of just all sorts of random events or just whatever. So it's just an interesting point of view. And like often at times they have like the people who are involved in it like talk. And this one particular was called Identical Strangers Explore Nature versus Nurture. so this is these two women, Paula Bernstein and Elise Sheehan. They they were adopted as infants, um, and then they met at 35 years old. And it's pretty crazy because they were unknowingly part of a secret research project that separated them at birth. So they're identical twins.
What?
And what it was like this project, and it wasn't just those two. There's quite a few other twins. And
Okay.
my girlfriend even talked about there's a documentary about triplets who didn't know they had an identical, or even like the triplets had identical siblings, and they didn't find out till years later and discovered they were part of some sort of a project or something. Obviously, we're talking 1960s and 70s when this happened.
Right. But
And so
wow.
I
it's a
have
whole
so many questions.
different time period than that, right? So they wrote a book called Identical Strangers after they met.
Okay.
And to back it up a little bit, the way that they found each other was through finding out what adoption agency they were adopted through. It's one of the sisters actually went through that, was trying to find her sister because she found out, oh, do I have siblings? Do I have, and um, so Paula Bernstein, from her perspective, says like in 2004 she got home, her phone was ringing, and she picked it up, and it was this adoption agency that was actually also part of these two different, like a psychiatrist and a psychologist. A psychiatrist's name was Peter Neubauer, and the child psychologist name was Viola Bernard, and they were the ones who headed up the study. Um, so she gets a call through this adoption agency that they had been adopted through, and this woman on the line said, you know, I wanted to let you know that I felt it right that you have a twin sister who's looking for you, and you were part of this project. This, you need to know that you were part of this that was studying the development of separated identical twins as they grow. Um, and so that led her to linking up and then meeting for the first time at 35 in New York. One had actually gone off and was living in Paris at the time, and the other was living in New York. So um, to fast forward a little bit, so they were adopted in like the 60s, 70s, and then the study ended in 1980 because of, obviously, public opinion was quite against something like that happening.
I was gonna
Right.
say because
Right.
it's crazy and it's cruel and
Yeah,
it's mean and it would make somebody go feral and commit a murder. Like, what is wrong?
Yeah.
Keep
yeah,
going.
it's pretty nuts to like think that that was at a time was like, oh yeah,
I
that sounds great, like a
I
great
have
project,
questions.
go do that.
You might hopefully you know the
um
answer because I have questions.
yeah, well, I know
Yeah.
some of it. I haven't read the book, but I'm really interested in reading it. um well, these, yeah, in 1981, New York began requiring that all adoption agencies keep their siblings together no matter what, um, through any sort of adoption. And so that stopped that. What happened was, because of that public opinion, it actually caused the psychiatrist who was heading it to go, all right, then, because of public opinion, I'm going to stop this. It will never be published. And so there are results, there are findings and things that they found. Like if you think about it, and like even in the article itself, they talk about how this is from, there was an author who also tried to contact him. He did a book called Twins. It's a twin studies uh, book, but it's he says, from a scientific point of view, it's beautiful. It's practically a perfect study, but this study would never happen today. I mean, like we just discussed,
Right.
but it is
Mm-mm.
actually one of those, it's practically one of the only ways that you would actually be able to study without it being tainted in one way or the other.
Yeah.
How that, like, Peter Nybar's, his idea initially, like his whole reason for this was, he says that twins are better off separated to live and develop uniquely, because otherwise, like this was his thought, but
Yes.
he was saying it in terms
Yeah.
of, because twins are often, they're dressed the same, you know, they're put
Uh-huh.
into the same programs, they're doing the same things, which can, I mean, according to, this was like the study, right, might hold them back
Right.
from their unique self
Mm-hmm.
identities.
Right. Right.
um yeah, so it's
Right.
one of those things where it's just kind of crazy. So get this, I'm sorry, we can talk about it in just a second, but I just want to give you the full story to round it up. So the results, there are findings, there are things, but They have been sealed in the archives of Yale until 2066.
What the hell?
Nuts, right?
Will we still be alive? We'll still be alive, right?
Literally about to do that math.
It's like, are we still
Yeah.
gonna be alive?
It's like 40 something years from now. 40
So
years still
what?
from
In
now.
our
I'll
in
be
our
80.
70s. So we'll be in our
Yeah.
70s. Yeah.
Right.
I'll be
So
80.
we
You'll still
better
be
be
doing
we
this.
we better be alive. Yeah.
Dude,
You'll still be podcasting. It'll just be
yeah, we'll see.
like from space or something. I don't know.
You know what? We'll still be podcasting and we will be doing an episode about them. Be like breaking news. These insane people back in 1960. And so I just can't, I cannot imagine that they thought that that was like I get it on the scientific level. Like you said,
Right.
there's no way to really know unless you
Right.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like human decency tells you to not do certain things.
So these were kids that were placed for adoption, right? It wasn't like, because my first thing
These
was
are
like, did
babies.
they get couples to like do this and then just like give away their children? That was my question. I was like, because that's I can't say the F word. That's effed up in itself. Like,
I think
oof.
from the findings that I don't know much about the parents, but I think for the most part it was twins that were going to be placed for adoption.
Okay. Okay.
So
I think. I'd have to read this book and get back to you, but
Okay. Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna need you to read that book and get back to us because now I have all the questions about it. Like I mean, like, because you're talking about like these are twins that are being placed for adoption. Okay, cool. So did the scientists have a hand in picking the families, or did they just go and then how did they keep track of the data? Were the parents that were doing the adopting in on it, and how much money were
Yeah.
they getting paid? Because you know they were getting paid.
Oh.
You know they're getting paid. Like
yeah,
this
those,
isn't a like
$1
you just can't
bills.
like.
yeah,
Mhm.
those are all
I just-
questions I want answered too. Because yeah, it's that's a very in-depth study that was just like, whoa, like we don't have the findings, we're not gonna know about it much, but
yeah. Well,
Okay.
and then it just stopped.
We're
Like,
gonna hold
oh,
you to it, Greg. You better read that
Pub-
book so we
Yeah,
know
you
what
need
the
to read
hell's
that book.
going on. Because I'm like,
Mhm.
I need to know all these answers.
yeah,
That's
if you ever
Let's
want to
say
listen
read.
to it, it's a quick listen.
Is it on Audible?
Yeah, well, I listened to it just on NPR's website, but you
Okay.
can probably do a Google search of like um NPR Identical Strangers or NPR Nature versus Nurture. It's a 12-minute listen. And actually it was pretty cool because Paula Bernstein actually comes on and talks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, still Anson.
Hold on, it's only 12 minutes. I feel like this is more in the 12 minutes.
Yeah, the article itself on this is just 12 minutes, and
Okay.
it's a lot. Like you'll find
Okay.
out that there is a lot compacted in that 12 minutes. But yeah, even this Paula Bernstein, she talks about, she's like, genetics play a huge role. After they had met, she found like one of the things she talks about, she's like, I wanted to see if she had like fatty knees like I feel like I have. And she saw her knees and she's like, because like when they first meet, it's like a mirror image of yourself, basically.
You can, and you can hit listen right there.
Yep.
I'm gonna link that too. So people, I'm gonna link that. And that this is the article, right? That you were saying that
Yes.
you okay. So that's what I was gonna ask for if you'd send me that. But I'm gonna save this and then I can link that when we launch your episode because that I'm gonna go listen to that.
It's powerful. It's cool to hear actually not just some guy talking about it, but actually her point of view and talking a little bit about how
Right.
they met and they found out that like it's not just taste in music or books, it's actually like it's beyond that. It's personality, it goes deeper with ways that they connect and that they see similarities in themselves. It's such a cool, interesting story and the
Right.
whole situation. I mean,
I mean, obviously they could have gone in about it a better way. I get what they mean about like not having the twins necessarily like grow up together. I understand that because I'm all for finding out who the hell you are, finding your identity, being the person that you're supposed to be. I mean, I feel like that's already hard enough being one,
Right.
like having a twin where your mom's dressed you the same, had like just like you were saying, all the same activities your whole life. And it's like, you know what? They like soccer. I hate soccers, like, things like that. Like I'd rather do football. And so it's just so crazy because yeah, I mean, like I get their intentions, but let's not do it like that. Like
It is the whole entire understanding the intentions, but it's just still like there's just no other way to go about it.
right.
Like there's not, but maybe that means we shouldn't.
Yeah. Right. I agree.
I think the interesting part about it too is with the results being sealed, it's very relatable to our own stories where
Yes.
we know parts of our lives that have
Mm-hmm.
changed or been different because of the whole adoption, but there's so many unanswered ones that still have yet to be discovered, right? And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I really liked about that Paula says in there, Paula Bernstein says, I it's hard for me to imagine um growing up with her. Like it's hard for me to even image that. I just can't even
Mm-hmm.
imagine what my life
Right.
would be like growing up with her because there's just no way to gauge having a
Yeah.
twin, having a
Mm-hmm.
whole different life of like person that's born the same day that you share so much identity with.
Right.
So it's that was an interesting perspective to me. We had some really good deep discussions with my own birth mother last week, and it was interesting because I was able to hear more things in depth and to hear just how more complicated all of it really was. There's so
Right.
much that we don't even, I mean, adoption can be so blanketed with such an easy, like, well, this young mom isn't able to care for her, this mother isn't able to care for her child, so child's been adopted.
Mm-hmm.
And even I think back to our um the year mark of the what was it, the 100 episode, I'm so sorry, was it year
Oh,
or was it
yeah.
just 100?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was our year mark.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I was about to
I,
say, did we hit 100
so
episodes? Did I lose my mind?
We're close, but not yet.
are you okay? So the year mark, when it was so cool to hear so many different perspectives from so many different adoptees
Right.
and the
Mm-hmm.
adoption families and stuff. And so I don't know, I find it so interesting that there is so much depth to
Right.
adoption. There's so much to
Mm-hmm.
discover
Well,
with
and
yourself, and that's a huge part.
my favorite thing, and I can't even talk. I've asked you guys, and I'll probably be sending more questions too. One thing I've noticed people really like is asking the same question, and I get a different perspective
Mm-hmm.
from every single adoptee. And
Yep.
it's crazy because, like, when I asked if, like, some were very thought out, some were very yes, no, it was just, but it's just crazy. So I like that you said that because it's just like any human being, not everybody's story is the
Mm-hmm.
same. And so you can't be like, oh, all adoptees are like this. Cause it's like, no, I actually really like these questions because then they may be similar or they may be completely different, but it's
Mm-hmm.
good for you to kind of see how everybody is different and how you're saying it's complex. Everybody's story is so different. And I know
Mm-hmm.
like there's so many different, like for you to go down and learn all of that, like with your birth mom, it's just crazy because people give you kind of the soft version of, oh, this happened, then this happened, and now we're here. That's
Yeah.
not
Mm-hmm.
how it is.
It
I
always
mean
starts as the kid glove version.
Right.
The kid
Yeah.
yeah.
glove version and the fluffy version. And then
Right.
like, they start taking off the gloves and they start
Yeah.
taking away the fluff. And they're like, there's some not so fluffy parts to this. And it's like, cool. I like give me all
Exactly.
the parts.
Right. Right.
And like it takes all of it, takes
Yeah,
everything.
Yeah.
you dig down far enough, there's skeletons, and you're gonna
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
for
have to
sure.
Oh,
unearth some things that
For
100%.
sure.
isn't just
100%.
the beautiful stuff comes, and I think that all comes full circle to that
Mm-hmm.
conclusion of nature versus nurture. There's no way to separate the two because they're not mutually exclusive.
Right.
Just like each and every
Mm-hmm.
story of adoption, there's no you can't really compare it. It's so
Yeah.
hard to unless you get an exact situation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. And like they're not the same. Like I can pinpoint things out of all of our stories that are not the same, but I'm going to choose not to talk about them on the air. We can talk about them when we stop.
I
But
know, I
like,
know.
yeah, but you know what I
I
mean? Like
know.
where there's our three stories are so different with relationships that have
Mm-hmm.
gone on in our own
Mm-hmm.
adoption stories, adoptees,
Mm-hmm.
adopted people. I just love that.
Adopted people.
Cool. But
Adopt.
no, like
I will forever love adopted people. You're just not a part of the adopted people. Back up.
no, but it's so true. So, oh no, this was good. Thank you for coming back on and talking about it because there's like so many things that
Mm-hmm.
like oh, I just love it. I love it because I learn something new every time, and you can
Mm-hmm.
think about it deeper and more in depth, and that's what I really like about that is like And that quote was money. That very first one that you
It
read
really
after
was.
after what you wrote was like just wow. Just wow. I'm gonna see if I can find it and maybe link it on your on the show notes because I'll just ask you to send it to me because it was really good. It was
Yeah,
really
I'll
good.
send it over to you.
Agreed.
And maybe what I'll
I
do
loved
is I'll get it because my Instagram that has my thesis on it is private. So I'll post it on my public, my art one. So
Oh yeah, because yeah, it is on your
yeah.
private one. Because when I
Mhm.
was cheating, I saw that it was the same thing you had
You know,
written. You had written. I'm like, oh, he just read that to us. So
Yeah.
yeah, because that one's really like it's beautiful. It's great. Let's see. Stop
you're cheating. You can't jump ahead in the story.
I want to see the pictures better. Okay.
Patience. Patience.
Anyway,
God.
Delancey, do you have any more questions for Greg or anything on anything that he's discussed tonight?
Not until after he reads that article.
Oh,
Oh God, that
oh, the
book.
book.
I'll get back
The
to you with my
book.
book
Excuse
report.
me, the book.
Yeah,
Excuse
the
me.
book.
Wait,
Yeah.
the thing about the thing with the twins, that then I will have all the questions
Okay.
because
Cool.
yes.
Okay. Awesome. No. Greg,
500
is
word
there
essay on your desk.
five? Gotta fly it out to Mississippi and put it on her desk at work.
That's right.
She'll be
Right.
ready.
Got
That's
it.
too funny.
100%.
Greg, is there anything I kind of like how you kind of just ended it before, but anything else that you want to share about like nature versus nurture after like this whole thing to kind of wrap it up?
Just I'm just gonna circle back to that conclusion where it's kind of the beautiful part that never actually has the answer at the end of it.
Yeah.
It's like a painting where you can't
Mhm.
actually, you can always pick at it more, you can always dive in deeper and
Yeah.
add to it and learn from it. It's the same with nature versus nurture.
Mhm.
There's not real just an end point to answer the question. Can't have one without the other.
I love that
I
so
love it.
much.
Well, we might have to have you come back on again after you read the book. Lucky you.
That's right. I gotta give
Well, I
an
like I
update
feel
on
like
these
I learn
twins.
stuff every time Greg's on. Like I feel like I learn something every time we have like,
It's true.
interviews and stuff. Like I always learn something new. But like every time Greg's on, I'm like,
I know.
it's how you call me teacher's pet. I'm like, yes, I am teacher's pet because I am learning and I'm gonna get a gold star. So
And you cheated, Melina.
you did cheat, Melina.
No gold star for you. No, it's so true. So no, but seriously, Greg, thank you. We appreciate it. And then if he does link that, I'll link his Instagram to his art one. Because it really is beautiful. And all the pictures that he's put on there is just, it's amazing. It still blows my mind that people can do that. Cause I'm like, look at this that I drew. It looks like Mario, like a really sad Mario, but like we said, that's like
You
next
can
level
draw.
stuff.
You can even draw that. I can do like stick
Barely.
figures.
Barely. So anyway, but seriously, Greg, thank you for coming on and spending your night with us. We so appreciate it. Thank you for the
Mhm.
life update and thank you for sharing a part of your heart with us on that. Cause I know, yeah. So seriously, we appreciate
Yeah.
it so much. So
Thank
thank
you. It's been
you.
awesome.